Now is military and defence analyst Colonel Simon Diggins. Good morning to you, Colonel. Thanks for joining us on this sombre day. I guess the first question we have to ask is, how did this attack happen in the first place? The Israeli national defence system is renowned as one of the strongest in the world, and yet seemingly by land, sea and air, Hamas just rolled into the country uncontested.
Yeah, I think one of the issues for the Israelis will be to look at their systems. This is very reminiscent to what happened 50 years ago with the Yom Kippur War, where, again, the assumption was the Israelis' security, their intelligence apparatus and everything would prevent a kind of surprise attack, which actually occurred. And so the Israelis were looking very hard at their systems and trying to understand why it was they didn't pick this up. Now, why, we don't know. I mean, in terms of the analysis, there's been various indicators, conversations taking place between Iran, Hezbollah, who, of course, were one of their proxy organizations operating from the Lebanon and Hamas itself. And there's clearly some exchange of information, ideas, and indeed technology. So whether the combination of all those things sort of came together for this particular occasion, it happened on the Jewish Sabbath, so it was a holiday. And it was also a holy day. So it's probably assumed that the Israeli defences, rather like Yom Kippur, would be slightly down. But there will be very detailed analysis of what it was that they missed, which led to this attack.
Yes, and there surely has to be, because we, on the outside of all of this, have always believed that Israeli intelligence is second to none. And yet, as many commentators are saying in today's newspapers, it's almost like Israel's 9/11 moment. Not only has it been a terrible attack, and there are going to be rising numbers of casualties, but it just happened out of the blue. It seems as though Israel was taken totally by surprise. How can their intelligence have failed them so badly?
I mean, it's very hard to work that out. I mean, as I said, there may be one of the things that I'd be interesting to try and explore and to scratch away with. It's very painful for them to work it out. But Israel itself has been a house divided against itself, certainly for the last year, including for the first time amongst their security forces. There's a report that came in several months ago where one of their most famous reserve fighter and bomber squadrons basically refused to serve. And I just wonder whether that sort of division amongst themselves, the lack of clarity about what their mission was or what they're doing as a country, led to not necessarily the guard going down, but people not working together. I mean, we have in this system, in this country, a system which is at the top of which is a joint intelligence committee where all the agencies work together. Notoriously, the Americans, who have significantly more intelligence assets than all of us, struggle sometimes to try and bring that together. But it does actually rely on trust. It does actually rely on people having a common sense of what the mission is. So the question I think for the Israelis will be is, has the internal divisions within their country led to a situation whereby one agency has understood something, but they're not talking to the other one because they see themselves as being biased? Now, that's slightly speculation, but you have to try and get into the sort of detail of that, try and understand why they failed to pick up what is clearly an absolutely major offensive by Hamas.
And Colonel Diggins, the IDF said they were going to open the gates to hell. Some breaking news here. Israeli fighter jets have been targeting buildings known to contain Hamas intelligence. Bombing has continued through the night. There are still 8 positions within Israel still where Hamas Palestinian forces are gathering and being fought back. We have now the next stage of what's rapidly approaching towards an all-out war, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we do. And it's not to say that it will just be confined to the sort of the Gazan border. As I said, there are very strong links with Hamas and with also some militant groups operating out the West Bank. It is perfectly possible that will be spreading out from there. Again, that's what happened at Yom Kippur. So that the Syrians came in with the Egyptian forces. So we're now not in a game of interstate warfare, but that kind of spreading of the threat from different locations might also be an issue. And no doubt the Israelis are thinking very hard about that as well.
And of course, as with any war, there are human beings and human suffering going on both sides. But if we just think about the Hamas operatives who got into Israel and then took hostages and have apparently taken them back into Gaza, presumably they're using them or intend to use them as human shields.
I think so. I mean, I think it's one of the things they'll try and prevent the Israelis were conducting a sort of absolutely full-out assault on it. I mean, not that would be an easy thing for the Israelis to do. I mean, it's the Gaza Strip is the third most populated area in the world by people per area. It really is. That's the nature of the country. To try and conduct an all-out assault onto what is essentially a very heavily urbanized area would be an act of extraordinary violence and misery on a scale we haven't seen since the Second World War. So I hope they won't think like that. But nonetheless, they will no doubt be thinking about how they can use those hostages. Hostage taking is a wicked thing to do. There is no excuse for it whatsoever. And I hope that saner heads and the people who have got what you might call decent influence on the Hamas will say to them, this is not a good thing to do. It's going to lead to more and more revenge. Please give those people back. And that might just be the start of something a little bit more humane and a little bit more sensible. But, hostage taking is wicked, and that's what they've just done.
And Colonel Diggins, what do you see as the broader geopolitical fallout of this? There are extraordinary scenes yesterday in the Iranian parliament where parliamentarians there were chanting death to America. Of course, recently Joe Biden has donated $6 billion to the Iranian regime to try and make peace. That looks to have fallen flat. Meanwhile, in the Lebanon, Hezbollah are rumoured to be gathering on the border. The whole area, not just Israel and the Gaza Strip, looks on edge now, doesn't it?
It doesn't. It does indeed. I mean, there's always an issue there where there's a sort of, there's a tinderbox waiting for someone to throw a match into it. The linkage with Iran is clear. As I said, Hezbollah are their proxies. They've been operating in Lebanon. They're also operating in Syria, and Hamas are also proxies for them, being supported by the Iranian intelligence and by Hezbollah itself in terms of information technology and all those sort of areas which are enablers to this kind of warfare. So yes, there is always that possibility it might spread further from there. The issue of Biden's money, I mean, I think that was probably a mistake. But there are domestic pressures which are there as well, and the Iranian government does not have a good regime of, if you like, honouring the spirit of what was been going on. They often use that as exploitation. It's again hard because they've taken hostages and will be trying to exploit that again. That's what they're trying to do, and you can understand the imperative from the perspective of President Biden trying to get Americans back. But it then provides us, if you like, an open door for the Iranians to do something wicked as they have just done, and just directly and through their proxies.
And there's no doubt people waking up to even more of this news. It was frightening enough yesterday. But, the talk of war going on at the moment. We have to, I suppose, remind ourselves that even though they've never openly admitted, Israel is a nuclear force, isn't it?
It is. It would be very hard to identify what a sensible target would be for them with this. I think the time they became nuclear was an era when there was worry about proliferation. We do know that Hamas had links through to North Korea, and there's no doubt that there is a possibility, at least, that they have the possibility of some kind of nuclear technology will have been discussed with them from there. That's quite a special scenario. I don't have full details on how they've done that. I know that, but they have had links through with North Korea. North Korea is a nuclear power, and it's also a power that has used and spread, if you like, information around nuclear weapons around the world. So yes, there's always that possibility that sits there in the background.
And Colonel Diggins, bringing this back to Great Britain, there were scenes in parts of London last night of locals celebrating what Hamas had done with Palestinian flags. The Metropolitan Police today issuing a warning that they will clamp down on such activities. How much of an issue do you think this kind of division is on British streets?
Well, I'm delighted the Metropolitan Police are taking a hard line with that. I mean, what's happened in Israel and on the Gaza area is actually shameful. I mean, attacking people, taking hostages is just shameful. Whatever the political tensions, and let's not, none of us here are naive about the kind of the issues that divide Israel and Palestine, how complicated they are, how historic they are, and how deep-rooted some of those challenges are. However they are from there, this is not the time to be using that to celebrate what basically is a very wicked terrorist attack onto mostly peaceful people. And it's shameful there are people in this country who can be so unaware of what you might call the boundaries of conversation, dissent, to use this opportunity to do that. I'm disappointed but delighted that the Metropolitan Police have taken a hard line, and I hope they continue that.